Today, Coach Jude Martinez and classmates, we are the 1LPS City Mathematics Study Hub 6, Fight to Survive. My name is John Mark M. Cataylo, the little teacher of the group. Please allow me to introduce the member of the group. RAYAN ANDICO, LEIZEL Joy MALINOSQUE, and ROZEL James Sanchez. For this task, we will tackle about identifying the 14 learner-centered principles. To begin with, Mr. Andico will discuss the graphic organizer, followed by Mr. Cataylo for cognitive and metacognitive factors, Ms. Malinosque for motivational and effective factors, and Ms. Sanchez for developmental and social factors and individual differences. In the end of this video, Ms. Malinosque tasked to sum up the said topic. But before we proceed, what is our task all about? From an integrated and holistic look at the principles, the following definition emerges. Learner-centered is the perspective that couples a focus on individual learners, their heredity, experiences, perspectives, backgrounds, talents, interests, capacities, and needs, with a focus on learning, the best available knowledge about learning and how it occurs, and about teaching practices that are most effective in promoting the highest levels of motivation, learning, and achievement for all learners. This dual focus then informs and drives educational decision-making. Learner-centered is a reflection in practice of the learner-centered psychological principles in the programs, practices, policies, and people that support learning for all. This definition of learner-centered is thus based on an understanding of the learner-centered psychological principles as a representation of the current knowledge based on learners and learning. The principles apply to all learners in and outside, young and old. Learner-centered is also related to the beliefs, characteristics, dispositions, and practices of teachers. Practices primarily created by the teacher. When teachers and their practices function from an understanding of the knowledge base delimited in the principles, they A. include learners and decision about how and what they learn and how that learning is assessed. B. Value each learner's unique perspectives. C. Respect and accommodate individual differences in learners' backgrounds, interests, abilities, and experiences. And D. Treat learners as co-creators and partners in the teaching and learning process.
So good day to my fellow classmate and to Coach Jude, and also to the people who will watch this video. So today we will discuss the 14 learner-centered psychological principle and its 4 domains. So here, what are these learner-centered psychological principles? So integrated research and theory from the education and psychological prepared by the American Psychological Association that provides a framework for educational reform and design. So what are these principles help to the one of us? So it helps teaching and design learning experience in the school level. So here are the 4 domains or 4 factors of the 14 learner-centered principle, which have the developmental and social factors, which have 2 principles, cognitive and metacognitive factors, which have 6 principles, and individual difference factors, which have 3 principles, and motivational and affective factors, which have 3 principles. Cognitive and metacognitive factors, which deal with thinking and thinking and thinking. So motivational and affective factors. So these motivational and affective factors deals with the factors appeal to the behavior and emotion of the learner. So, individual difference factors. So, here the site of example of the individual difference factors, which have the specifically dealing with diversity and standards. So these developmental and social factors, which these factors considered to be external or contextual factor. So that's the 4 domains of the psychological principles.
Cognitive and metacognitive factors. Number 1 principle. Nature of the learning process. The learning of a complex subject matter is most effective. It is an intentional process of constructing meaning from information and experience. It means, in these principles, the learner will learn about the information and other to enhance his/her skills. Learning in schools emphasizes the use of intentional processes that students can use to construct meaning from information, experiences, and their own thoughts and beliefs. Successful learners are active, goal-directed, self-regulating, and assume personal responsibility for contributing to their own learning. There are different types of learning processes. For example, habit information in motor learning, and learning that involves the generation of knowledge or cognitive skills and learning strategies. Number 2 principle. Goals of the learning process. The successful learner over time and with support and instructional guidance can create meaningful, coherent representation of knowledge. The strategic nature of learning requires students to be goal-directed. Students must generate and pursue personally relevant goals. Educators can assist learners in creating meaningful learning goals that are consistent with both personal and educational aspirations and interests. Number 3 principle. Construction of knowledge. The successful learner can link new information with existing knowledge in meaningful ways. Knowledge widens and deepens as students continue to build links between new information and experiences and their existing knowledge base. Unless new knowledge becomes integrated with the learner's prior knowledge and understanding, this new knowledge remains isolated and cannot be used effectively in new tasks and does not transfer readily to new situations. Number 4 principles. Strategic thinking. The successful learner can create and use a repertoire of thinking and reasoning strategies to achieve complex learning goals. Successful learners use strategic thinking in their approach to learning, reasoning, problem solving, and concept learning. Learners also continue to expand their repertoire of strategies by reflecting on the methods they use to see which work well for them, by receiving guided instruction and feedback, and by observing. Learning outcomes can be enhanced if educators assist learners in developing, applying, and assessing their strategic learning skills. And number 5 principle. Thinking about thinking. Higher order strategies for selecting and monitoring mental operations facilitate creative and critical thinking. Successful learners can reflect on how they think and learn, set reasonable learning or performance goals, and monitor their progress toward their goal. Successful learners can also know what to do if a problem occurs or if they are not making sufficient or timely progress toward a goal by generating alternative methods to reach their goal, or reassesses the appropriateness and utility of the goal. Instructional methods that focus on helping learners develop these higher order or metacognitive strategies can enhance student learning and personal responsibility for learning. And number 6 principle, context of learning. Learning is influenced by environmental factors, yes, including culture, technology, and instructional practices. Teachers plays a major interactive role with both the learner and the learning environment. Cultural of group influences on students can impact many educationally relevant variables such as motivation, orientation toward learning, and ways of thinking. The classroom environment, particularly the degree of which it is nurturing or not, can also have significant impacts on student learning. Now, we're done for the cognitive and metacognitive factors. Let's proceed to the next factor.